Oh no, it's broken. Yeah, one of the front coil springs has snapped. So rather than just replacing one, I'm replacing both front springs. First job is getting the anti-roll bar drop link disconnected from the strut. I'm jacking the hub up slightly here to take some tension off the suspension. Now there's a slight problem. Try undoing the nut and the centre turns with it. There's an 8mm fitting in the centre, so I can hold that still while undoing the nut with the other spanner. There we go. Drop link out. And there's the piece of our spring. Definitely meant to be attached. You can even see where it snapped. Right, other side, same again. This one's going to come off just as easily. Ratchet, no. Impact, no. Socket snapped, fine, we'll do it your way. With that little disagreement out the way, I can start freeing the strut. The brake hose and wiring are clipped on here, so they'll just need releasing before the strut comes out. Next is the large bolts clamping the bottom of the strut into the steering knuckle. Nut off, bolt out, and exactly the same on the other side. Now, even with that bolt removed, the strut is still clamped tightly into the steering knuckle. This is a strut spreader tool. It goes into the slot at the back of the clamp. And as I turn it, it spreads the clamp open, which should let the strut slide out. Should. A little gentle persuasion, a little assistance, so now we move on to some precision engineering. There we go, precision. Spreader in, bit of persuasion, and the other side's free as well. Now we move upstairs. Under the bonnet are the 3 bolts holding the strut top mount to the body. I'll loosen all 3. Take 2 completely out and leave the last one loosely fitted. That stops the entire strut dropping out while I'm underneath, because catching it with my face isn't part of the plan. With everything supported, the final top mount bolt can come out, and there's that complete strut assembly. Same process on the other side. Top mount bolts out, and number 2 is out. Now comes the bit you really don't want to get wrong. The spring compressor. A compressed coil spring stores a lot of energy, so this needs to be properly secured before that top mount comes anywhere near being off. Strut secured, and now I can carefully compress the spring. Once there's no longer pressure against the top mount, centre nut off, top mount off, and the strut can come straight out of the spring. Now the old spring can carefully be decompressed. And while everything's apart, it's a good opportunity to check the damper. I'm compressing it, making sure it returns smoothly. And here's our replacement. New spring, old spring. The protective sleeve from the original spring is still perfectly usable, so that's getting transferred into the new one. Now we can start rebuilding the strut. Spring seats and isolators back into position. New spring. The important thing here is making sure the end of the coil is properly seated in the spring seat. Right there. Everything looks correctly aligned. So back into the compressor. Now I'll compress the new spring just enough to get the top assembly back on. Top mount on. And get the centre nut started. And I've left my sockets all the way on the other side. With the top assembly secured, the spring compressor can be carefully released. there we have it, one completely rebuilt front strut with a brand new spring. And remember our extremely cooperative drop link from earlier? Yeah, that's getting a new one too. Time to put it all back together. Strut back up into the wheel arc. Then it's just a case of getting the top mount lined up with the 3 mounting holes. A little bit left, a little bit right. 2 bolts loosely in. A bit more adjustment underneath. And there we go. Final top mount bolts in. I'm using the jack underneath the hub to bring the suspension back up into position. Once the strut is fully seated into the steering knuckle, the spreader tool can come out. Clamp the bolt back through and the nut on. And secure everything back together. Cap back on. Last major piece, our new drop link. Bottom goes into position, but the top mount hole isn't quite lined up yet, so I'll raise the hub, which moves the suspension into position. And there we go, straight through. Both ends locked in. Bottom secured. Top secured. Finally, all the wiring and brake hose clips go back where they belong. Would you look at that? New spring, new drop link, everything back together, everything in one piece.